The hidden reason God hasn't sent your person yet. Have you ever stared at the ceiling late at night and wondered why everyone else seems to be finding love while you are still waiting? Have you ever prayed the same prayer over and over again? God, where is my person? Why haven't they arrived yet? And if you have asked that question, then this message is for you. Because what if the delay is not rejection? What if the silence is not abandonment? What if the reason God has not sent your person yet has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with His preparation? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at waiting the same way again. There is a kind of loneliness that no one talks about. It is not the loneliness of being physically alone. It is the loneliness of carrying hope for something that has not happened yet. You watch friends get engaged. You see wedding photos. You hear stories about people finding love when they least expected it. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet question begins to grow. What about me? You try to stay positive. You try to trust God. But some nights, the waiting becomes heavy. Some nights you wonder if God forgot. Some nights you wonder if you somehow missed your chance. And that is where many people make a dangerous mistake. They begin to interpret God's timing through the lens of their emotions. They assume that because something has not happened yet, it never will. But God's delays have never been evidence of God's absence. Think about it. The greatest stories in Scripture are filled with waiting. People waited for promises. People waited for answers. People waited for doors to open. And almost every time, the waiting served a purpose. Because God is never just preparing the blessing. He is preparing the person who will receive it. Imagine receiving everything you have prayed for before you were ready to handle it. Imagine meeting the right person while still carrying wounds from the wrong people. Imagine entering a healthy relationship while still believing unhealthy things about yourself. The blessing would arrive, but you would not be prepared to protect it. And this is where the hidden reason begins to reveal itself. Many people think they are waiting on God, but often God is waiting on them. Not because He is angry, not because they are failing, but because transformation takes time. A seed does not become a tree overnight. A sunrise does not happen all at once. And a soul is not prepared for lifelong love in a single moment. Sometimes God delays what you want because He sees what you cannot see. He sees the habits that still need healing, the fears that still need confronting, the insecurities that still need surrendering, the lessons that still need learning. And because He loves you, He refuses to rush the process. Think about that for a moment. the very delay that frustrates you may actually be evidence of God's protection. Because not every open door is a blessing. Not every opportunity is your destiny. Not every person who enters your life is meant to stay. Sometimes God says no to temporary comfort so He can say yes to lasting peace. Sometimes He removes people because He knows where they would eventually lead. And sometimes He keeps the right person away because the timing is not right for either of you. That can be difficult to accept, especially when your heart feels ready, especially when your emotions are tired, especially when you have spent years waiting. But feelings are not always facts, and readiness is not determined by desire alone. There is a story that plays out in countless lives. A person becomes convinced that they are ready for love. Then one unexpected challenge appears. A disagreement, a disappointment, a season of uncertainty. And suddenly, hidden fears begin to surface. Old wounds speak louder than wisdom. Past heartbreak influences present decisions. The foundation cracks under pressure. Not because the person is broken, but because there was still healing left to do. And healing is not punishment. Healing is preparation. The truth is that God's goal is not simply to give you a relationship. His goal is to shape you into the person He created you to be. Because if a relationship becomes your source of identity, it will eventually become your source of pain. The person you are waiting for was never meant to replace God. They were never meant to complete you. They were never meant to carry the weight of your purpose. Only God can do that. And until that truth settles deeply into your heart, waiting will feel unbearable. But once it does, something changes. You stop seeing your life as incomplete. You stop measuring your value by relationship status. You stop treating the future as the place where happiness begins. And for the first time, you begin to live fully in the present. That is where the shift happens. That is where peace begins. Because suddenly, you realize something powerful. The goal was never simply finding the right person. The goal was becoming the right person. Becoming someone who knows their worth. Someone who trusts God's timing. Someone who can love without losing themselves. Someone who is emotionally healthy, spiritually grounded, and deeply secure. And when that transformation begins, waiting no longer feels like a prison. It becomes a classroom. Every day becomes an opportunity to grow, to learn, to trust, to become stronger than you were yesterday. Then one day, something incredible happens. You stop obsessing over when. You stop asking why. You stop checking the clock. And instead, you start focusing on who you are becoming. Ironically, that is often when life begins to change. Because your attention shifts from what is missing to what God is building. From scarcity to purpose. From fear to faith. And maybe that is exactly where you are today. Maybe you clicked on this video because your heart is tired. Maybe the waiting has felt longer than expected. Maybe you are wondering if your story will ever unfold. If that is you, hear this. Your waiting is not wasted. Your prayers are not ignored. Your future is not forgotten. God has not lost your address. He has not misplaced your destiny. And He has not overlooked your heart. What He is doing behind the scenes may be greater than anything you can currently imagine. Because while you are waiting for your person, God may be preparing both of you. Shaping both of you. Protecting both of you. Guiding both of you toward a future that neither of you can yet see. The delay is not necessarily a denial. The silence is not necessarily an ending. Sometimes it is simply preparation happening out of sight. So tonight, instead of asking, why hasn't God sent my person yet? Ask a different question. Who is God helping me become while I wait? That question changes everything. Because when you focus on becoming rather than merely receiving, you discover that this season has value. You discover that growth is happening. You discover that purpose is unfolding. And most importantly, you discover that God has been working all along. The hidden reason God hasn't sent your person yet may not be because something is wrong with you. It may be because something beautiful is still being built. And when the time is right, when the lessons are learned, when the healing is deeper, when the foundation is stronger, what God brings into your life will not feel rushed. It will not feel forced. It will not feel accidental. It will feel like something that was worth every moment of waiting. Because sometimes God's greatest blessings arrive late enough for us to appreciate them, but right on time according to His plan. And that is the truth many people spend years trying to understand. You are not waiting because God has forgotten you. You are waiting because God is preparing something bigger than you can currently see. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust the author of your story. Because the chapters you cannot see yet may become the most beautiful chapters of all.